I want to start with a feeling. I think it's a feeling we all know. It's, 3 in the morning. You're lying in bed, just staring at the ceiling, and your brain is screaming at you.
Mhm.
Maybe it's about a presentation you have tomorrow or some awkward thing you said like 5 years ago, or just this crushing sense of doom.
It's a very visceral experience. Your heart is racing. Your stomach is just in knots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you feel completely paralyzed, like you're on a roller coaster you never ever agreed to get on. You know you're safe in bed, but your body is acting like there's a tiger in the room.
And I think the most frustrating part is that feeling of helplessness.
Yeah.
You feel like a hostage inside your own skin.
A hijacking. That's what it feels like, a total hijacking. And so when I picked up the source material for today, it's called The CEO of Consciousness, Mastering the Biological Advisor. I was expecting, breathing techniques, maybe some mindfulness tips.
Sure. The usual stuff.
But this is, well, it's different. It's not a self-help guide. It reads more like a corporate restructuring plan for the human mind.
It really does. It frames that whole internal conflict not as some kind of spiritual failure, but as a management
Pretty
issue.
an issue. I love that.
And the whole mission of this deep dive, really, is to figure out who is actually sitting in the CEO's chair. Because according to this source, most of us have accidentally handed the keys to the company over to a very panicked, low-level employee.
That is the metaphor that hooked me right away, the corporate structure of the mind. So let's lay this out. The source makes this really bold distinction between you and your body and brain.
Right, and that can be a stumbling block for people. We tend to identify with our thoughts. We think, I am thinking this, so I am this
Yeah,
thought.
of course.
But this framework argues that you, the conscious observer, the part that's just knowing, you're the chairman of the board, you're the CEO.
Which is a nice title to have, but I have to say, I do not feel like the CEO when I'm having a panic attack. I feel more like the intern who just spilled coffee on the server.
And that's because, according to the source, your security advisor has gone rogue. In this model, your body and your brain, all the hardware, the nerves, the chemistry, they function as your security advisor.
Okay, a security advisor. I mean, that sounds important. You want security.
You do. And the advisor is very, very good at its job. Its whole mandate is to manage the hardware, your senses, your organs, and process all the raw data it gets from the world. Then it sends a report up to the CEO's office.
Up to me.
Up to you. But, and this is the absolute key, the advisor has one single overriding policy.
Let me guess, it's not maximize long-term happiness.
Not even close. The policy is survival, just preservation of the organism at all costs.
Which on paper sounds pretty good. I'd like to survive.
It is good, but it makes for an incredibly paranoid employee. I mean, think about it. If your entire job is security 100% of the time, how do you interpret a sudden loud noise?
Oh, gunshot. Bomb. Definitely a bear.
Exactly. You don't think, oh, maybe that was a car backfiring, until much later. The security advisor's job is to assume the absolute worst-case scenario, because in the wild, assuming the best case gets you eaten.
So we're all walking around with a little doomsday prepper in our heads.
Precisely. And this leads to the first big problem the source identifies.
Yeah.
The report is never clean. The advisor doesn't just hand you raw data. The source uses this fantastic phrase, a translation from Thai, that says the brain adds eggs.
Adds eggs. I stopped at that line for a solid 5 minutes. It's such a specific, weird image.
Isn't it? It basically means to embellish, to exaggerate. Think about it like cooking. You have a little bit of plain rice. That's the raw data. That's not very exciting. So you crack an egg in, maybe two, add some other stuff. Suddenly you've got a huge, flavorful meal.
So the raw data might be, there is a sensation of elevated heat in one finger.
Right. That's the rice.
Yeah.
But the security advisor adds the eggs. It adds the whole story. This is excruciating. Who left the stove on? I'm going to get a blister. I won't be able to type tomorrow. My career is over.
And by the time that report lands on my desk as the CEO, it's not hot finger, it's code red. Your entire life is falling apart.
Yes. The report is wrapped in this emotional urgency, panic, fear, suffering to force you to act. The advisor knows that a simple memo saying temperature elevated might get ignored. But if it screams, we are dying, you're going to act. Now,
It's clickbait. My own brain is using clickbait on me.
that's a perfect analogy. It's internal clickbait designed to bypass all your logic and just get a raw reaction.
But wait a second, let me play devil's advocate. If I touch a hot stove, I need that panic. I need to pull my hand away instantly. If I sit there like a calm CEO and, deliberate on the report, I'm going to get seriously burned.
In that split second of real physical danger, absolutely, the reflex is essential. But here's the problem. The security advisor uses that exact same mechanism for everything. It treats an angry email from your boss with the same biochemical intensity as a tiger in the room.
Right. And that's where the cost comes in. Because my security advisor seems to think we have an unlimited budget for drama. And the source brings up this really fascinating point about the economics of fear.
This was the real aha moment for me. We think of emotions as these abstract things, but they're biological events. They require fuel,
It costs energy.
a massive amount of energy, creating intense pain, manufacturing terror, pumping all that cortisol and adrenaline through your system that is metabolically expensive.
Just think about how you feel after a really anxious day or a full-on panic attack.
Oh, you're wrecked, physically wrecked. You can't think straight. You just want to sleep. Your muscles ache.
It feels like you ran a marathon.
You basically did,
Yeah.
chemically speaking. The security advisor is burning through the company's resources to create all that drama. It's spending all the cash to hire a marching band to parade around your office screaming, danger.
So why does the system allow it? I mean, if evolution is supposed to be all about efficiency, why is the system so wasteful?
It's because of the feedback loop. And this is where the CEO, that's you, has been, well, failing at their job.
Uh-oh.
Imagine the brain sends a high panic report about, say, a public speaking gig. It burns 500 calories, making your heart race and your palms sweat.
And what do?
Yeah.
I, the CEO, completely freak out. I start pacing, I think about canceling, I go up there and my voice is shaking.
Right. And the security advisor looks at that reaction and basically says, excellent, the CEO listened, the expenditure was justified, we survived the speech, so therefore the panic worked.
Oh, wow. So I'm validating the expense report every time.
You are stamping a big approved on the waist. You're teaching your employee that screaming is the only way to get your attention.
That is deeply depressing. But it makes so much sense. I've basically trained my brain to be a drama queen because I keep buying tickets to the show.
You've incentivized the inefficiency.
Okay, so let's talk about the turnaround strategy. We're the CEO. We've just realized our security advisor is embezzling company energy to manufacture these crises. How do we take back control of the boardroom? The source talks about veto power.
Yes, the concept of the reject stamp.
But what does that actually look like? Because saying just don't panic sounds nice, but when that sensation is screaming at you, it feels impossible to ignore.
And that's a critical distinction. You are not ignoring the report. If you ignore the security advisor, he just screams louder. He thinks you didn't hear him.
Right. I said there's a tiger.
Exactly. So you don't ignore. You acknowledge. You look at the report. You say, okay, I see the data. I see the sensation of tightness in my chest. I see the thought that says this is a disaster. You acknowledge that the package has arrived.
So I've signed for the delivery. Now what?
But you refuse to pay the invoice for all the drama. You look at the added eggs, the panic, the catastrophic story, and you use your veto power. You do not react. You just remain the calm observer.
That moment of non-reaction sounds like the hardest thing in the world.
It is at first. But let's go back to the economics of it, because that's the real mechanism of change. Biological systems are absolutely ruthless about efficiency. Evolution hates waste.
So if I don't react to the panic,
If the brain burns a ton of energy creating a panic attack, and you, the CEO, just sit there and breathe calmly through it, the system marks that entire energy expenditure as waste,
a bad investment.
a very bad investment. The security advisor looks at the spreadsheet and goes, wait a minute. We spent all these resources screaming at the CEO, and he didn't even blink. He didn't run. That was a total loss.
And if you do that enough times,
The advisor learns. It's a learning machine. It learns that screaming is inefficient. It realizes the boss doesn't buy the eggs anymore. So it stops cooking them.
it just stops yelling.
It does. It starts sending concise, factual reports. Instead of, we're all going to die alone and unloved, it sends a report that just says, social friction detected. Caution advised.
That sounds infinitely more manageable. It's like firing the drama queen and hiring a professional analyst.
And all that energy that was being wasted, it gets reallocated to your immune system, to creativity, to joy, to things that actually support your life instead of just manufacturing imaginary tigers.
You know, this whole framework totally changes how I think about something like meditation. The source brings it up, but not in that, clear your mind, find your bliss kind of way.
No, not at all.
It frames it almost like employee training.
Yes. I loved this part. Meditation is basically a staff meeting. You're not sitting there trying to kill your brain or silence your mind. You can't fire the security advisor. You need him. He keeps your heart beating.
Right. I don't want to have to micromanage my own liver enzymes. Thank you very much.
Exactly. So the goal isn't silence. The goal is management. You sit in meditation to practice that veto power. You practice watching all the crazy proposals come across your desk. My leg itches, I'm bored, what are we having for dinner? And you practice just not signing off on them.
It's just reps,
Yeah.
like gym reps for your authority.
And the source used this really specific, beautiful concept for what happens to the advisor after you do this for a while. It says the advisor starts to have krengjai.
I looked this up. It's a pie concept, right? There's no perfect English word for it.
No, not really. It's this mix of respect, consideration, and a reluctance to impose on someone. It's that feeling when you don't want to trouble someone because you respect their status or their peace.
So right now, my security advisor has zero krengjai. He just kicks the door down at 3 a.m. and shoves charts in my face.
Correct. He treats you like you're his subordinate.
Hmm.
But as you establish your authority as the CEO, as you consistently stop reacting to the drama, the advisor develops krengjai. He starts to knock.
He knocks.
He becomes considerate. He realizes the entity in the big chair, they're the true DOS. I'm just the machinery. He starts to hesitate before just imposing a state of panic on you.
Wow. That shift in the dynamic from a dictator to a respectful employee, that feels like true power. It's not about controlling the world outside, it's about controlling your interpretation of it.
And the source pushes this logic to its absolute limit. We have to talk about the ultimate shutdown.
Yeah, I was waiting for this because it's heavy, but it proves the point so perfectly. The source applies this whole model to the moment of death.
The ultimate hardware failure.
Right. I mean, we usually think of death as this terrifying struggle. And from a biological standpoint, that makes sense.
Of course, if the security advisor's only policy is survival, then death is the ultimate failure of its job. As the hardware starts to shut down, the advisor goes into maximum overdrive. It floods the system with every alarm bell it has. It is screaming, "Do something, we are failing."
And that's the panic, the struggle that we associate with it.
But the source argues that a trained CEO, someone who has mastered this internal relationship, can handle that moment completely differently. Even when the entire building is collapsing, the CEO retains the authority to say, it's okay.
You can actually veto the panic of death itself.
You can separate the hardware failure from the user experience. The machine is breaking down, yes. The security advisor is losing his mind. But the CEO, the consciousness, can remain intact. You can authorize the shutdown.
So instead of being dragged out screaming, you're the one who turns off the lights and calmly walks out the door.
Shutdown approved. It allows for a transition of peace instead of a transition of panic. And if you can do that in the face of the ultimate biological terror, you can certainly do it when you're just stuck in traffic.
That's the whole thing, right? We don't have to wait for the end to use this. Every single day we get hit with these little reports. A rude comment, a bad headline, stubbing your toe, those are all drills.
They're all opportunities to check the invoice before you pay it.
So for the listener who's feeling hijacked right now, who feels like their security advisor is running a dictatorship, what's the first step?
Just awareness. Just start noticing the split. When that feeling hits, just pause for a second and ask, is this the raw data or is this the omelet?
Is this just the sensation or is this a whole dramatic story about the sensation?
Exactly. And then, just for a moment, try to withhold the funds. Don't fight the feeling. That takes energy too. Just watch it. Don't buy into it.
Yeah.
Gently remind the advisor who signs the checks around here.
There was a line in the source that I think just sums this whole thing up perfectly. Pain is a report, but peace is a decision.
That is the takeaway. Pain is inevitable. It's just data coming in. Suffering, however, is optional. It's a budget decision.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought to mull over. We've talked about how your brain is just this employee trying to be efficient and how it learns from your reactions. So here's the question. If your brain is just a paranoid security guard trying to justify his budget, how many of your daily crises, the stress about work this morning, the tone of that text message, the look your partner gave you, how many of those were just exaggerated reports that you blindly signed off on?
And what would happen to your energy, to your peace, if you just stopped paying for them?
What would happen if you dissed it? Give it a try. Be the CEO. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.